Have you ever watched a movie twice and been like, oh, wait a minute, it was right in front of me all along. Bruce Willis was dead this whole time and nobody told him. A 30-year-old woman convinced everyone she was 9 by wearing ribbons. And somehow a porcelain doll was the least suspicious thing happening in a house where an adult man lived in the walls. Well, you're not alone, because I've watched many horror movies, and here are just some of the craziest twist endings that nobody saw coming, but were right in front of us all along. So, The Sixth Sense. Bruce Willis gets shot in the opening scene, and then the movie just keeps going, which should have been the first hint that something was off. But we were too busy watching a child psychiatrist try to help a kid who sees ghosts to wonder why Malcolm's wife won't look at him anymore. The whole movie is Malcolm trying to fix Cole, this terrified kid who finally admits he sees dead people walking around. And Malcolm's just taking notes, being a good therapist, thinking he's nailing it this time because his last patient shot him and then himself. No pressure. Meanwhile, his marriage is falling apart. His wife Anna sits at dinner and won't even acknowledge he's there. She's drinking wine alone on their anniversary. Malcolm's convinced she's mad at him, that their relationship is broken, that he needs to work harder to save it. Except she's not ignoring him because she's upset. She literally can't see him or hear him. The whole time, every single scene after that opening, Malcolm's been dead. Cole's line about how the dead people don't know they're dead wasn't just about random ghosts, it was about him. The patient was treating the therapist and didn't even realize it. And here's the thing, the movie shows you this constantly. Malcolm never opens the door. Not once. He just walks through doorways that are already open or appears in rooms without us seeing him enter. At that anniversary dinner, Anna never makes eye contact. She's staring at his empty chair, talking to nobody, crying alone. When Malcolm sits at a table, he doesn't pull out the chair. He just appears sitting. The film even color codes it. Every time the dead world intersects with the living world, there's red. The doorknob to Malcolm's basement that he can't open, the tent Cole hides in, that balloon at the birthday party. But we missed it because we were watching Malcolm's face when Cole said, "I see dead people," not realizing the camera was showing us exactly who Cole was talking about. But now let's move on to a twist that took kids 2 days to notice that just something was wrong. In the visit, 2 kids go to their grandparents for the first time. They've never met them before because mom had some falling out with them years ago. But hey, let's send the children to rural Pennsylvania to stay with strangers for a week. Great plan. The first night is fine. It's a little weird, sure. Nana's making cookies, Pop-Pop's doing old people stuff, and then 9:30 p.m. hits and Nana starts crawling around the house on all fours, scratching at walls and vomiting everywhere. The kids film this, they tell it to their mom, but everyone's response is just that it's old people problems, and they move on. Pop-Pop starts hiding soiled diapers in the shed, and then gets violent over nothing, and tells the kids to never go in the basement because of mold. And somehow these children are still there by day 3, documenting everything, thinking their grandparents just have really aggressive dementia. Then mom sees them on a video call and goes silent. Those aren't your grandparents. Turns out Nana and Pop-Up murdered the real grandparents, stole their identities, and lured the kids there because they're escaped psychiatric patients who needed fresh victims for some ritual involving an oven. Because that's just a normal thing that happens when you don't FaceTime before booking travel. And the clues were screaming at them the entire time. The real grandparents would have been ancient. These people were maybe 60. Mom never actually spoke to them directly and just made arrangements through calls where they stayed off screen. They refused all video chats until that final day. Pop-Pop even catfished the local police using a name the kids made up in a story, which should be impossible unless he was eavesdropping and lying about being in contact with authorities. But my favorite part is how the kids set up a camera to film Nana at night and just kept staying in the house. Like, yeah, she's eating her own shit and speaking to beings under the house, but breakfast is pretty good, so we're gonna stick it out. Now let's move on to Get Out. Chris goes to meet his girlfriend Rose's family for the weekend. It's a white family and he's a black boyfriend. He is nervous, it'll be awkward. But turns out awkward would have been the least of his problems. First of all, the parents are trying way too hard. The dad's throwing out, "I would have voted for Obama for a third time," within 5 minutes. The mom's a hypnotist, and the black housekeepers act like they're from a different dimension. And at a party, all of these white guests keep touching Chris, asking about his muscle mass, and talking about black bodies with the enthusiasm of people shopping for a used car. One guest to the party, a young black guy, is dressed and acting like he's 70 years old. But Chris takes a flash photo and the guy is a complete meltdown, screaming, "Get out," before being dragged away. So Chris decides to leave, which is a good instinct, but it's too bad that Rose has already trapped him. Because the Armitage family isn't just racist. They've built an entire surgical operation to transplant white people's brains into black bodies. Rose has been luring victims for years. Her mom hypnotizes them and her dad does the surgery. They're literally stealing black people's bodies for wealthy white customers who want to live longer or see better or have better genetics. That weird behavior from the housekeepers, well, they're actually Rose's grandparents. They're white people stuck in black bodies, trying to suppress the original people still trapped inside. The party wasn't a party. It was an auction. That bingo game was rich white people silently bidding on Chris's body. And the film telegraphs this constantly. Georgina keeps touching her hair, adjusting it, checking a scar near her hairline where they cut into her skull. Walter runs every night because he's actually the grandfather who lost to Jesse Owens decades ago and he's still angry about it. And Rose's dad literally assesses Chris's body out loud, saying that his kids would be top of the line because of genetics. Every guest at the party wears red except Chris, who's in blue. But the biggest tell? Rose separates Chris from anyone who can identify him. She stops a cop from seeing his ID, and she controls every interaction because victims need to disappear without a trace. And she's done this enough times to have a system. Now let's move on to another movie from Jordan Peele, Us. Adelaide takes her family back to Santa Cruz. She doesn't want to go. She's terrified of this place because of something that happened when she was a kid at the boardwalk. Her husband thinks she's overreacting, but she's not. One night, 4 people show up in their driveway wearing red jumpsuits. The Wilson family goes outside, sees them standing there, and realizes they're looking at themselves. The same faces, the same bodies, but something's just a little off. The double of Adelaide is the only one who talks. Her voice is wrecked, raspy, and barely works. She calls herself Red and explains that they're the tethered. They're people who lived underground their whole lives, copying the movements of their surface counterparts. She's been down there, she's been trapped, and now she's leading them all up to kill their originals and take over. Except there's a couple problems with that story. In the final fight, we find out Red isn't the one who lived underground her whole life. Adelaide is. They switched places as children. Little Adelaide from the surface met her tethered copy in a funhouse, got attacked, dragged underground, and trapped there while the tethered girl took her place up top. Which means the woman that we've been following, the mother we've been rooting for, the hero of the movie, is actually tethered. And she's been living a stolen life for 30 years. And Red, the supposed villain, was just trying to get her real life back. The movie shows you this in ways you don't catch until it's too late. Adelaide can't snap her fingers on beat to music. She has no rhythm, which the film treats as a metaphor for having no soul. And when she was a kid, she stopped talking after the funhouse incident because tethered don't speak. They only grunt and copy. Her son even asks her once if she ever feels like she's not herself, and she just stares at him. And when Adelaide kills Red at the end, she doesn't do it all. She doesn't do it clean. She's brutal, animalistic, and making sounds that aren't quite human. Because she's not fighting to protect her family. She's fighting to keep anyone from finding out who she really is. Let's not talk about identity though. There's a storm, and 10 people get stuck at a motel in Nevada. They start dying one by one. It's a classic horror setup, and everyone's trying to figure out who the killer is before they're next. But then the movie cuts away to something else, a courtroom. It's late at night and there's this emergency hearing about a convicted killer named Malcolm Rivers who's supposed to die soon. His lawyer's arguing that Malcolm has something called dissociative identity disorder, which is multiple personalities, and that is why he killed all of those people, because he didn't even know he was doing it. These two stories keep switching back and forth: motel murders, courtroom drama. And you're sitting there wondering why this movie can't pick a lane until you realize there is no motel. The 10 people aren't real. They're Malcolm's personalities fighting inside his head to see which one gets to survive. Every time someone dies at the motel, that's Malcolm's brain killing off one of his identities. The whole thing's happening in his mind while he's sitting in a psych evaluation. But here's where it gets worse. By the end, it seems like the good personality won. Paris, this woman who survived, she's calm and normal, and the court's ready to say Malcolm's cured. We can all go home. Except the real killer was Timmy, the little kid. The personality that seemed the most innocent was actually the one who's been murdering people the whole time. And in the final seconds, Timmy kills Paris inside Malcolm's head, takes over, and then strangles his own psychiatrist in the real world. The clues were there if you looked. Everyone at the motel shares the same birthday, May 10th, which is Malcolm's birthday. Their driver's license all have different names, but that one identical date. The bodies disappear after people die because they're not real bodies. The psychiatrist literally lists Malcolm's personality names during the hearing, and they're the names that match the people at the motel. But you don't connect it because why would you? That is 10 fake people in one head. The next movie only needed 2. Marie and her friend Alex drive out to Alex's family farmhouse for a quiet weekend. They get there, it's nice, everything's normal. Then that night, some guy shows up and butchers Alex's entire family. Just absolutely destroys them. Marie hides, watches this happen, and as soon as the killer leaves with Alex tied up in his truck, Marie decides she's going to follow him to save her friend. The whole movie is Marie tracking this guy. She's in the back of the truck at one point as she watches him stop at a gas station. She sees him kill the clerk when he gets suspicious. She's terrified, but she keeps going because she loves Alex and she's not leaving without her. Except Marie is the killer. There is no guy. Marie has a split personality and she's been doing everything we just watched. The security footage from the gas station shows Marie alone, attacking the clerk by herself, covered in blood. And when the cops find Alex, she's trying to explain that her best friend murdered her entire family and kidnapped her. And the movie hid this pretty well, but if you go back, it's obvious. Marie and the killer never appear in the same shot when Alex can see both of them. Marie has a dream early on where she's chasing herself through the woods, and she literally says, "I dreamed I was chasing myself," out loud, but everyone ignores it. The killer hums this specific song that Marie was singing right before the murders started. Even their clothes start matching as the movie goes on. Marie begins in normal stuff, and by the end she's wearing the same kind of dirty, blood-covered outfit as the killer, because they're the same person and the movie was slowly showing you the truth by making them look identical. The truck that supposedly belongs to the killer has Marie's cassette tape in it, her lighter, her stuff. Because it is her truck. It always was her truck. She just couldn't see it because her brain split itself in half to deal with what she was doing. At least Marie had a disorder, but one guy just decided to live in walls. In The Boy, Greta takes a nanny job in England. The family seems normal on the phone, so she shows up and they hand her a list of rules for taking care of their son. The son is a doll. Not a baby, but a life-size porcelain doll named Brames. And these people treat it like it's real. They've got a whole schedule. Breakfast at 8, reading time at noon, kisses before bed. The parents tell Greta to follow the rules exactly. Then they leave on vacation. She thinks they're insane. The second they're gone, she stops pretending the doll is alive and just starts using the house. But then things get weird. The doll moves to different rooms. Her clothes disappear from her suitcase. She hears footsteps when nobody's there. Greta starts thinking maybe the doll actually is haunted. Maybe the ghost of the real Brams who died in a fire years ago is inside this creepy porcelain thing. So she begins following the rules to keep the ghost happy, and it works. The doll behaves. She's convinced she's dealing with a supernatural situation. But then the doll gets smashed and an adult man crawls out of the walls. The real Brams, who is 30 years old and is wearing a porcelain mask. He's been alive this whole time, living in secret passages behind the walls, moving the doll around himself, watching Greta through peepholes. The parents knew the entire time, and they hired Greta as a sacrifice, basically because they couldn't deal with their creepy son anymore, so they just left him with a stranger and fled the country. I don't know what these parents are not smart. Have you thought about like an exterminator? Like, just gas the house. He'll be gone. If he's really that big of an issue, you can't deal with your own son. Be better parents? I don't know. So every supernatural moment was just Brames being a stalker. The doll moving? Yeah, he carried it. Her clothes going missing? Yeah, he stole them while she showered, and that's really creepy. The voices she heard? Whispering from inside the walls 6 inches away from her head. The film never shows the doll move on its own because it can't. There's muddy footprints leading to the doll at one point that are child-sized but still footprints. Greta gets locked in the attic one night and hears banging from outside the door. Not ghost sounds. The sound of a grown man locking her in and walking away. Even the house itself gives it away. Random mirrors and vents are positioned where they shouldn't be, all pointing towards hidden spaces where someone could watch. Now let's move on to another even weirder movie. Orphan. A couple adopts a 9-year-old girl from Russia. Her name is Esther. She's polite, talented at painting, speaks well, and dresses in old-fashioned clothes. Seems a little weird, but she's perfect. But then people start dying around her. The mom, Kate, starts noticing things. Esther knows way too much about adult topics. She gets violently jealous when Kate and her husband try to have adult fun time. She acts more like a woman than a child, but everybody thinks Kate's being paranoid because she's grieving a stillbirth and looking for problems. Kate then keeps digging into Esther's past. The nun from the orphanage tries to warn her that bad things happen around this kid. Then the nun dies in a suspicious accident. Kate then finds out Esther's records don't match up. And finally, she discovers the truth. Esther isn't 9 years old. She's 33. She has a rare hormone disorder that makes her look like a child, and she's been doing this for years. She escapes from mental hospitals, pretends to be an orphan, gets adopted by families, then tries to seduce the dad and murder anyone who gets in her way. Her real name is Lena, and she's killed multiple families, and God, she is weird. And the ribbons she always wears around her neck and wrists, yeah, they're covering scars from straitjacket restraints. The old-fashioned layered clothes, well, they're hiding a body that isn't a child's. She refuses to let doctors or dentists examine her because they'd immediately know something was wrong. At one point, she literally knocks her own tooth out to avoid a dental appointment. When Kate and her husband try to get it on, Esther reacts with the jealousy of a grown woman competing for a man, not a kid who accidentally walked in on their parents. She understands like the whole dynamic. She notices when other women flirt with the husband. She has conversations about relationships that no actual 9-year-old would comprehend. Do you know what I was talking about at 9 years old? I was like, oh my God, Ma. Oh, dinosaurs. What do you mean we're losing the house in the financial crisis right now? Stegosaurus. I'm just kidding. I lived in Canada, so we didn't really go through that, but Stegosaurus, yay. The movie's tagline was, there's something wrong with Esther. And yeah, the something wrong is that she's been lying about her age for 3 decades and nobody has checked her teeth since. So Esther fooled the family, but Teddy Daniels fooled himself. Federal Marshal Teddy Daniels goes to an island asylum to investigate a missing patient. She disappears from a locked room somehow with no windows and no exits. Teddy thinks the doctors are lying. He thinks they're running illegal experiments. He thinks there's a conspiracy. His new partner, Chuck, seems nervous. The staff won't give straight answers. Patients keep saying strange things to him during interviews. One woman asks for water, mimes drinking it, but Teddy doesn't see a glass in her hand. Another patient writes "run" in his notebook. Teddy has his own problems too. He's haunted by memories of his dead wife, who died in a fire, and he's also looking for a patient named Andrew Latis, the man who started that fire and killed her. Teddy thinks Latis is somewhere on the island, and the doctors are protecting him. Everything builds to Teddy finding the truth in a lighthouse. He's ready to expose the whole operation. But there is no conspiracy. There is no missing patient. Teddy Daniels isn't even his real name. He's Andrew Latis. He's the patient. His partner Chuck is actually Dr. Sheehan, his psychiatrist. The entire investigation was roleplay therapy, a last attempt to break through his delusion before they have to lobotomize him. Andrew murdered his wife after she drowned their children. His brain couldn't handle that reality, so it created a whole new identity. Federal Marshal Teddy Daniels, tragic widower, hero cop. The missing patient, Rachel Solando, was an anagram. Rearrange the letters and you get Dolores Chanel, his wife's real name. The movie plants this everywhere. Edward Daniels and Rachel Solando are both anagrams of Andrew Latis and Dolores Chanel. Chuck fumbles with his gun on the boat like he's never held one because he's a doctor, not a marshal. Nobody besides Chuck ever directly talks to Teddy. The glass of water disappears because Teddy's mind was blocking it out. He has a thing about water because his kids drowned. Staff members keep giving Teddy weird looks and exchanging glances because they're all in on therapy. They're playing roles and watching to see if he'll break through. And at the very end, Andrew says something that might mean he's pretending to still be crazy just so they'll lobotomize him and he won't have to live with what he did. Let's now move on to our favorite psychopath out there, Jigsaw. Two guys wake up chained in a bathroom. There's a dead body on the floor between them. The guy is lying in a pool of his own blood, holding a gun, and is very obviously dead. They get instructions on a tape. Dr. Lawrence Gordon has to kill the other guy, Adam, by 6 o'clock or Lawrence's family dies. That's the game. They've got saws to cut through their chains, but the chains are too strong, so really the saws are for their feet. You know, if they want to leave that badly. The whole time they're panicking and trying to figure out who Jigsaw is, this serial killer who's been setting up these torture games all over the city. They think he's watching them somehow. Cameras maybe, a remote location. They keep talking about him like he's somewhere else, pulling strings while they're stuck in this room with the corpse. 90 minutes go by, and the movie is almost over. Lawrence has shot Adam, thinking he's dead. Everything's falling apart. And then the corpse stands up. That dead body lying there the entire movie, that was Jigsaw, just lying perfectly still on the floor for hours, listening to every word they said, watching them tear themselves apart mentally and physically. He gets up, says game over, and walks out and locks Adam inside. The man they thought was another victim was the guy running the whole thing all along. If you pay attention, it's there. Early in the movie, Lawrence talks about a cancer patient he saw named John, and there's sketches of trap devices on the guy's desk. That patient, John, was Jigsaw, the same person. The gun the corpse is holding has no spent shells in it because he never shot himself. Someone has to be pressing the button when Lawrence and Adam get electrocuted through their chains. Who's pressing it? The guy on the floor. There's even a scene where detectives hear Jigsaw's voice, and it's the same actor who's playing the corpse, but you don't connect it because why would you? The guy is dead. He's been dead since minute 1, except he wasn't. Now Adam's screaming in the dark while Jigsaw walks away. Let's now move on to a different movie that involves someone playing dead. Grace lives in this massive old house with her 2 kids. The kids have a disease where light hurts them, so every room stays dark, curtains drawn, candles only, no electricity. 3 servants show up to help maintain the place, which is lucky because the previous help all left without notice. Grace runs the house with really strict rules. The kids can't go outside much. Everything's controlled and quiet and religious. Then people start showing up who shouldn't be there. The kids see a boy named Victor. Doors start opening by themselves. Grace hears voices. Someone's in the house and she can't figure out who. She's terrified these intruders are going to hurt her children. She's protecting them, doing everything right, keeping them safe. And these people keep appearing, walking through her home, acting like they own it. There's then a seance. Some living family is trying to contact the dead, and during this seance, Grace finally gets it. She's the dead one. Her kids are dead. The servants are dead. They all died before the movie started. Grace had a breakdown and killed her children, and then herself. The intruders she's been afraid of are actually alive. They're the new family that moved into the house. Grace and her kids have been ghosts this whole time, haunting the living people, thinking they're the ones being haunted. The kids' allergy to light was never medical. It's because they're spirits who can't handle the living world. When Grace found those old Victorian death photos in the house, she was looking at pictures of dead people posed as alive, which is what she and her children have become. And the servants, they're also ghosts. They're from the 1800s, buried in the yard. Their graves are out there, and they've been dead for over a century. Everyone in this house is dead except the family Grace keeps trying to kick out. And the movie shows this constantly. The servants are way too calm about everything. No living person interacts with Grace or the kids directly. The house has no connection to the outside world. It's isolated, dark, and cut off. And the kids keep finding reminders that they died, but Grace just won't accept it. At least Grace had company in her death though. Sumi only had herself. Sumi comes from the hospital with her little sister Soo Young. Their dad's there, their stepmother's there, and their stepmother is cruel to Soo Young, which makes Sumi protective and angry. It's standard family drama stuff. Weird things start to happen. Ghosts show up, the stepmother acts strange, Soo Young goes missing. But here's the first problem. Soo Young's been dead the entire time. And here's the second problem. The stepmother hasn't been there either. Sumi has dissociative identity disorder, and she's been imagining Soo Young since she got home. She's also been playing the stepmother herself, switching between personalities, fighting with herself. Her dad's been trying to manage this quietly without forcing her back to the hospital. The movie replays scenes at the end, and you see Sumi alone in rooms where we originally saw 2 girls, having dinner by herself, talking to nobody. Her dad only ever addresses her never Soo Young, because Soo Young isn't there. What actually happened is that their real mother ended her own life in a wardrobe years ago. Soo Young tried to save her, got trapped, and the stepmother was there but didn't help fast enough. Soo Young died, and Sumi blamed herself and couldn't accept it, so her brain just kept Soo Young alive in her head and turned all of her anger at herself into anger at the stepmother. The film doesn't make it obvious. The dad never speaks directly to Soo Young at any point, and there's a dinner scene with floor plate settings but only 3 people eating. When guests visit, they ignore Soo Young completely and don't acknowledge that she's sitting right there. At one point, Sumi and the stepmother get in a fight, and they both end up with the same cut in the same spot, the same wound, and the same blood pattern, because it's the same person. The stepmother tries on the dead mother's clothes and breaks down in front of a mirror, but that is not the stepmother. That's Sumi wearing her mother's dress, losing her mind, and we just assumed it was someone else because we didn't know Sumi was playing both roles. So Sumi did play 2 people, but Norman Bates did it first. Marion steals $40,000 from work and drives off. Bad decision, but she's desperate. Rain starts coming down hard and she pulls into the first motel she sees, Bates Motel. A guy named Norman runs it and lives with his mother in the house up the hill. Norman's nice. He's awkward, but he's nice. They have dinner together and he talks about his mother. Says she's difficult sometimes. You can hear her yelling at him from the house. She sounds angry that Norman's spending time with a young woman. That night, Marion's in the shower and someone comes in and stabs her to death. We see an old woman, gray hair, long dress, knife. Norman finds the body afterward and cleans everything up, clearly protecting his mother from what she did. A detective then shows up looking for Marion. He goes to the house to question the mother, and she kills him too, with the same knife, the same old woman. Marion's sister and boyfriend then come to investigate. They sneak into the house, and the sister finds the mother sitting in the basement. But she's dead, and has been for years. She's literally a mummified corpse in a chair. Then Norman runs in wearing a wig and a dress, holding the knife, talking in his mother's voice. He is the mother. He killed his actual mother a decade ago and developed a split personality to deal with it. Whenever Norman feels attracted to someone, the mother personality takes over and murders them to keep Norman pure. Every conversation Norman had with his mother was him talking to himself. Every time he heard her yelling, that was Norman doing both voices. The figure in the window was Norman moving around in her clothes. Nobody ever talks to the mother except Norman. The detective goes to question her and gets stabbed before any conversation even happens. The sheriff tells them Mrs. Bates has been dead for 10 years, but they don't believe him until they see the body. Norman even tells them early on. He says his mother is as harmless as stuffed birds while showing off his taxidermy hobby. He stuffed her too. He just didn't mount her on the wall. Now, Norman was able to fool a couple people, but an entire village was able to fool the world. There's this small village in Pennsylvania. Everyone dresses like it's 1897. They live simple lives, follow strict rules, and stay away from the woods because there are creatures out there, monsters. Everyone calls them those we don't speak of, which is a very ominous way to avoid saying monster. It is honestly longer, so literally monster would be a lot easier. The elders run things around here. They made a pact with the creatures to stay out of the woods. The creatures stay out of the village. Everyone is happy. Everyone wears yellow for safety, and red is banned because it attracts the monsters. Sometimes the creatures test the border, leave marks, make sounds, and people live in fear. Lucius wants to cross the woods to get medicine from the towns beyond. The elders say no, but then Lucius gets stabbed and he's dying, so his blind girlfriend Ivy volunteers to make the journey. She's brave, and she leaves. In the woods, she encounters one of the creatures. It chases her, and she tricks it into falling into a pit where she realizes it's wearing a costume. The monsters are fake. They are just elders in suits. But then Ivy climbs over a wall and meets a park ranger in a truck with a radio, and we find out it is not 1897, it's 2004. This village exists inside a wildlife preserve. The elders are people who had tragedies in modern life, decided to create a fake historical community to escape from the world. They made up the time period, the rules, the monsters, everything. They raised their children this lie and never telling them that cell phones and cars and the internet exist 20 feet past the tree line. The elders have no old people because they only started this place a few decades ago. They keep black boxes in their homes with photos and newspapers from their real lives before the village. When monster attacks happen, the elders stand there calm because they know it's just Dave in a suit. Dave. The creatures look handmade because, ding dong, they are handmade. The woods are forbidden because past the woods is a Walmart parking lot. The whole thing is a cult disguised as a historical reenactment that got really out of hand. So yeah, that village ended up lying about when. But our next film, the family lied about who. A guy named Fenton walks into the FBI and says he knows who the God's Hand serial killer is. It's his brother Adam. He needs to tell them the whole story from childhood or they just won't understand. Back in the 70s, Fenton and Adam lived with their dad. One night, Dad wakes them up and says an angel has visited him. God has a mission. There are demons walking around in human bodies, and Dad has to destroy them. He gets a list of names, an axe, and some gloves. Dad starts kidnapping people and killing them in a shed, and makes the boys watch. Little Adam believes Dad completely, but older Fenton thinks Dad's insane and wants to stop him. But Dad insists that he can touch people and see their sins, proving that they're demons. Back in the present, Fenton's leading the FBI agent to where the bodies are buried. Here's the first twist. The guy telling the story isn't Fenton. He's Adam, and he lied about his identity. The second twist, Fenton actually became a serial killer, and Adam killed him to stop him. The third twist, Dad was right. The people they killed were demons. All of them had committed horrible secret crimes. God was actually guiding them. When Adam kills the FBI agent with the axe, we find out the agent murdered his own mother years ago. He's on the list. And afterward, all the evidence magically avoids pointing to Adam. Security tapes blur his face. Witnesses can't remember him. The sheriff he works with seems almost angelic. God is protecting Adam because he's doing holy work. The story is set up so you think Dad is crazy, but details keep slipping through. Dad somehow knows things about people he shouldn't. Everyone they kill turns out to have committed actual crimes, and Fenton describing things only Adam or Dad would know should have tipped you off, but you trusted the narrator. When Fenton shakes the FBI agent's hand, he senses something. That's Adam's power checking if the guy's a demon, which means the good guys in this movie were the father and son murdering people in a shed because an angel told them to, which is pretty damn crazy if you ask me. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and comment down below what your favorite movie we talked about today was. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future uploads, and hit the hype button on this video as it helps this video get shown to more people. And if you want to watch another one of my videos, you can click the video on the screen right now.